on capital project priorities for the upcoming biennium, as well as the strategic master plan for correctional facilities. The General Assembly has provided $100,000 in the current budget. Any meeting materials received by the deadline were posted online earlier this week and made available for downloading at this time. And thank you, Jennifer, for filling in for us today. Would you please call the roll?
Senator Michael Nemes.
Present.
Senator Schickel. Senator Webb. Representative George Brown. Representative Decker. Representative Kulkarni. Representative Sharp.
Present.
Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel.
Present.
Representative Petrie. Representative Reed. Representative Elliott.
Here.
Representative Flannery.
Here.
And Senator Funky Fromeyer presiding.
Present. Thank you. And I do believe that puts us short of a quorum. That being said, we will not approve the meetings from last month at this time. I'd like to move on to item 3 then on our agenda, and that would be the update from the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet, capital projects priorities for 2024-2026 biennium. If you could come forward, please. And thank you. I'll appreciate if you can introduce yourself for the record and remember to press your lighted button. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Deputy Secretary Keith Jackson of the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet. With me, I have Deputy Commissioner Randy White and Rebecca Norton, our Executive Director of our Budget Office, to hopefully answer any questions that you may have today. Co-Chair Senator Fromeyer and Representative Flannery, thank you for allowing us to come before you today. The Justice and Public Safety Cabinet is comprised of 6 departments, employs over 8,000 employees, and provides essential public safety for the Commonwealth. Its jurisdictions includes 900 physical structures, approximately 10,000 acres, and it expands over 40 counties. This includes the state police posts, residential youth facilities, day treatment centers and facilities, adult corrections facilities, reentry services, criminal justice training facilities, laboratories, medical examiner's office, and other administrative offices across the Commonwealth. Today, I want to briefly discuss our top priorities as a cabinet. Above all else, we continue to prioritize safety and longevity of our buildings, and this requires addressing the backlog maintenance projects that have accumulated over decades of underfunded maintenance pools. The Justice Cabinet is unique in that many of our facilities operate on a 24/7 basis, and their continued operations are critical to life safety. The 24/7 facilities experience more daily wear and tear, but almost remain operational and must remain operational even when faced with a leaking roof or a failing HVAC system. Keeping these facilities in a safe working order requires a high level of effort from our staff, who work tirelessly to prioritize the available funding in response to immediate needs and anticipation of potential system or building failures. These factors, in combination with the Cabinet's large physical plant and aging facilities, require a large volume of maintenance pool requests, which cannot be delayed any further. The inability to clear maintenance backlog as quickly as possible results in more extensive requests for major projects in the future. Buildings continue to deteriorate while demand for services increase, and delays compound and complicate these issues when they need to be fixed. The Justice and Public Safety Cabinet's capital plan submission includes proposed maintenance pools and capital projects for Kentucky State Police, Department of Juvenile Justice, Department of Corrections, and Department of Criminal Justice Training. The Kentucky State Police has requested $30.7 million of maintenance pool funding in the upcoming biennium, including funds for critical roof replacements and security and fire safety improvements. KSP is also requesting additional funding for ongoing construction of KSP Post 7 in Richmond and additional improvements to telecommunicator technology and equipment. KSP is further requesting a new airplane and helicopter, an indoor firing range, a southeastern laboratory replacement, the replacement of KSP Posts 3 and 12, and other buildings and equipment in need of life cycle replacement. These requests will ultimately help recruit and fill roles with qualified, well-trained individuals while enhancing the critical and unique public safety services the Kentucky State Police provide to all those across the Commonwealth. The Department of Juvenile Justice has identified $5.9 million in maintenance pool to be completed over the next biennium, including life cycle repairs to sewer and water systems, HVAC systems, and roof repairs. DJJ has also requested a Phase 2 funding for the renovation of the Louisville Detention Center to follow a Phase 1 construction authorized in the previous session. The Department of Criminal Justice Training will be focusing its maintenance pool request of $6 million on executing maintenance to large expanse training facilities in Richmond, including maintenance of the driver's track and other facilities used daily to train law enforcement officers. DOCJT is also requesting a new and improved law enforcement training facility through the proposed Western Kentucky Training Facility. Access to training locations is vital for maintaining certifications and keeping skills up to date. The Department of Corrections has developed a maintenance pool request in accordance with the strategic plan for facilities. This effort equates to maintenance pool requests just under $57 million for the biennium and includes necessary and critical projects, which Deputy Commissioner Randy White will discuss in more detail. The Department of Corrections is requesting funding for the Eastern Kentucky Corrections Facility for critical repairs to the facade and structure estimated at $77 million, as well as the first phase of a necessary HVAC replacement at EKCC, projected to cost $80 million. The DOC is requesting $29 million for design of a new facility, as we recognize that there must be a conscious effort to replace the aging and costly, and it is very costly to maintain buildings, as well as strategically locate new facilities in areas where we can recruit and retain in the future. Other requests include improvements to gates and controls, as well as utility infrastructure replacements and upgrades. Rounding out the priority requests for the Cabinet are requests for additional necessary funding for continuing projects, including funding for furniture and fixtures at the Little Sandy Corrections Complex project. We welcome any questions you may have about our request, and thank you for the opportunity to come before you as a Justice and Public Safety Cabinet today. With that, I'll turn it over to Deputy Commissioner White to discuss the DOC priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary Jackson. We'll pause for just one moment. That was very thorough, and perhaps there are some questions that we want to address before hearing from Deputy White. Yes, Chairman McDaniel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Secretary, Commissioner, thank you for being here today. I do appreciate it. A couple things I want to touch on. I think the coroner's office, Secretary, will fall underneath of you. Where are we at in the Northern Kentucky Medical Examiner's office?
Yes,
So for that project, we were authorized a lease in the previous budget. So we've been working with Northern Kentucky University. They're currently renovating one of their buildings. I believe it used to be previously the Civic Center building, and it's been vacant for a while. So they are going through a renovation. It's in design right now, and we're working with them to make sure, you know, that the design, the modifications to the building meet the standards of a medical examiner's office, and then we'll establish a lease with them and lease that space from NKU.
Okay, and I'm sure you're aware we approved that probably 2 years ago, maybe 3. I know I don't know what the snag was with going back to the old space at St. Elizabeth, which was previously St. Luke, but you can't push them hard enough. And, you know, we really, really, really need to get that space open, okay?
Understood.
We can wait for corrections on my next one there. KSP. Ongoing, I think that you guys really need to think about consolidation of the headquarters, the Frankfurt Post, and the training academy, all out there at the training academy grounds. I know it's probably more money than you're thinking right now, but I think, I mean, state police headquarters in the old Ramada is what it is. But I think that land brings some value, and I think that a potential upgrade in that would be helpful. So I would just encourage a thought in that direction and a consolidation, because obviously is that post 6 out on the other side of town?
That's 3.
That's 3?
3.
You know, it's just an older building. You're going to need to replace it before long anyway. And if we can consolidate those functions and have nicer facilities, I certainly could be supportive of that.
Yes,
Beyond that, I think my other questions will probably fall in the corrections realm, so I'll hang tight. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Schickel? Okay. Yes. Co-Chair Flannery.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony today. Is there, could you all give a list of your priorities and requests to staff? I'd like to see those.
Yes, sir. We can,
right, thank you.
Present those to you.
Thank you, Deputy Jackson. We will then ask Deputy White, please.
So my presence today is to provide an overview of the, is that better? Okay. My presence today is to provide an overview of the 23-24 Strategic Master Plan for Correctional Facilities. It's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for the opportunity. If you'll bear with me, I'll just read through the executive summary that's presented at the beginning of this report. I'll note that in completing this report, within the Department of Corrections, extensive visits and analyzing the prisons, their physical plants or structures, we had the opportunity, my team and I, to visit all prisons, as we do quarterly regardless. But we had the opportunity this year, and we're also thankful for the funding that we received from the legislature to enable us to get out and conduct professional studies of our prisons, to have professionals, architects, engineers, to conduct east and west studies of our prisons, and those are about to wrap up. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank those that have been involved in providing that funding to us. We've not been able to conduct these types of studies or this extensive of an analysis of our physical plants in the past. So we've been able to do some good work analyzing our prisons and what their needs are going forward. Pursuant to the 2022 regular session House Bill 1, the Executive Branch Budget Bill, the General Assembly authorized a strategic master plan for Kentucky adult correctional facilities, being the prisons, in addition to a funding appropriation to support strategic master plan. Requirements of this plan include details for each prison, the system as a whole over the next 10 years, capacity, services, and facilities, a priority ranking of repairs, maintenance, and new construction, as well as how each facility integrates into the department's overall strategic plan and operational objectives. The report was due to the Interim Joint Committee on Appropriation and Revenue and the Interim Joint Committee on Judiciary by July the 1st. We completed this report within the month of June, and as you well know the process, there has to be critiques and formatting and things, and I think that was actually submitted last night or yesterday afternoon to LRC. This report and associated analysis provides a strategic master plan that may act as guideposts for future capital funding allocation considerations. It provides a comprehensive explanation of physical plant needs from the Department of Corrections and for the practitioners within the department. It projects how each DO facility integrates into the overall strategic objectives and the operational plan of the DOC. So I'll just briefly go through a bullet list of what is provided in this report. Maybe you've had the opportunity to maybe review this report and sift through it. The report contains the following information: a general overview of Kentucky's 14 adult prisons to include capacity, security, and custody levels as defined in each prison's assigned security level, a comprehensive matrix of available educational opportunities, treatment services, and programs to include self-help courses available to offenders available at each prison, a narrative description and photos of each prison in Kentucky to include but not limited to current operational data such as age, bed capacity, annual operating budget, and allocated staffing position numbers. The DOC's anticipated plans for each prison as projected for the next 10 years, and how each prison plan supports the overall DOC strategic plan and operational objectives. A brief explanation of the offender population forecast data and statistics ranging from 2017 through 2023. Institutional physical plant mapping with future project benefits. A brief description of KRS 532.100 and the current applicable offender bed count, along with future strategic objectives. The DOC capital construction 6-year plan, including necessary prison repairs, essential system replacements and upgrades, as prioritized with associated estimated costs. The 6-year plan is divided into 3 biennia. A description of current substantial projects involving new prison construction, current expansion projects, and plans for future substantial construction. And finally, a long-term list of recommended DOC prison construction projects for consideration to improve operations beyond the next 3 biennium and into the 2030-2034 span. While this report attempts to fully achieve the intent of the 2022 House Bill 1, efforts to gather information were coordinated with the timing of sequential events such as the necessary and corresponding task of prison inspections, information gathering at each facility in support of this report, the 2023 legislative session, the capital planning process, and countless extensive consultations, which are constantly ongoing, meetings and discussions. As of this report, multiple capital construction consultations continue to progress and develop based upon surfacing needs. And I think that gives you a general overview of what the strategic planning document contains. We stuck to the language of the budget bill. As you know, 10 different individuals could look at this and we get 10 different wants and needs, but we stuck with the budget bill language. With that, I'm happy to try and answer any questions that you may have.
And Deputy White, I wanted to thank you. Late last evening, Jennifer did receive this, so I have a printed copy, though the rest of our committee does not, and it can be found. It was uploaded last evening onto the committee report site. So on that, you have a question, Senator McDaniel.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, I want to talk through the Oldham County facility because, to be frank, I kind of lose track of where we are. I know we're shutting down certain portions and some functions have moved elsewhere already. We have other things. I think that we all know that long term for staffing and construction costs, it's probably not a viable place. And there's some ongoing things. Go more in depth as to what's at Oldham County. What have we transferred out of the facility? What's still there, and kind of where are we headed with all that?
Currently, Senator McDaniel, thank you. I think I'll be able to answer your question thoroughly. Ultimately, in that region, currently we have 4 prisons, one in Shelby County close by to the Oldham County facilities, and that's the Kentucky Correctional Institution for Women. On grounds in Oldham County, what we call the LaGrange Complex, we have 3 facilities there. The Roeder Assessment Center, the Kentucky State Reformatory that is of interest at present, I would assume, in addition to the Luther Luckett Correctional Complex. The challenges that we've had within that region involve staffing levels, trying to maintain staffing levels in a very robust job market and area, perhaps one of the most opportunistic for jobs in the region, maybe the state. It is difficult to compete with major industries such as General Electric, Ford, and others in that region. We've had challenges. In addition to those challenges with keeping adequate staffing at the prisons, we've had significant deterioration to the KSR, the Kentucky State Reformatory Complex. It's a huge, sprawling complex, and due to the staffing challenges and the deterioration, we've actually had to shrink down the population there and look at displacing the population and the staff vacancies to another region within the state. So accordingly, at present, we are expanding the Little Sandy Correctional Complex. We're almost doubling the size of that facility. It made economic sense to go that route because that facility was designed for expansion upon its initial construction. So it was a much better economic value to expand rather than build a new prison. And at present, we are looking to construct a new facility on grounds in Fayette County at the Blackburn Correctional Complex. Ultimately, the goal will be to displace and to improve upon medical and mental health services for offenders with a new modern design facility that will hopefully help us improve supervision. It'll be a better designed facility than a 100-year-old facility such as the Kentucky State Reformatory, with modern amenities designed around not only being a prison, but also to address the needs of patient offenders at the same time. And so I'm aware that you may have additional questions, but at present our intent is to, at some point in time, to displace the Kentucky State Reformatory to a different region, that being Fayette County.
So, but is Luther Luckett still running, or have we moved? Because that was the medical facility, correct?
The reformatory was primarily the medical and mental health facility. The Luther Luckett Correctional Complex is still operational. We haven't had as significant of staffing challenges there in that prison, but still in the region. They're in line with the other prisons having staffing challenges. Luther Luckett Correctional Complex has several important programs on site there at the prison, such as sex offender treatment program, a youthful offender pilot program, and we're still operational in that facility. And at the same time, what is co-located within that facility is the Kentucky Correctional Psychiatric Center that's operated by CHFS. So it is a joint venture between CHFS and the Department of Corrections on site at Luther Luckett.
So the intent is to eventually shut down KSR, though, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then those folks go to Blackburn, is what you're thinking?
Yes, sir.
Right now. What about Rudder?
Rudder is the assessment center it is the primary male intake assessment center. Rudder's mission will pick up a lot of the ancillary services that KSR offers now, such as a regional warehouse. Rudder also oversees the farming operations on site, which is primarily cattle operations, hay and cattle. That is supervised by Kentucky Correctional Industries and the Rudder Correctional Complex. The grounds amounts to, I think, over 2,000 acres there in that region.
You anticipate that staying
at present?
operational?
Yes, sir. At present, we have no plans to displace Roeder or Luther Luckett.
Okay, and none of the patients from Luther Luckett have gone anywhere else.
Luther
I thought we had talked about that at one point. Some of those folks going somewhere else.
Luther Luckett tends to be they accept some of the spillover from the Kentucky State Reformatory so that we can keep them close to the reformatory mental health services. They're not a primary mental or medical health facility, but they do take some of the spillover from that facility if their needs are not substantial, where we have to house them at the reformatory, but they still need the services in the region. We will keep them there at Luther Luckett.
But that one, the intent is that stays operational
Yes,
too.
sir.
Then, okay, good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I'll add that Luther Luckett is a pretty well designed and a well maintained facility. I think it's probably about 40 or 50 years old. So it to us it has got a good operational design and it's still fairly well maintained.
Senator Schickel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think my questions will be for the Deputy Secretary, or maybe either one of you. The first question is, and I asked this a year ago, we do have a death penalty in the state. It's my understanding that most of the legal challenges to the death penalty have been lifted and are going to be resolved very quickly. And the death chamber at the state penitentiary is under the jurisdiction of the Department of Corrections. And I inquired about this a year ago, and I was told someone will get back to me on it. But are we ready? The death penalty protocols are under the auspices of the commissioner. Is the death chamber ready to go? Is it up to date and ready to go? Or are there still impediments to an execution?
Senator Schickel, you may be aware I was the warden at the Kentucky State Penitentiary for 6 years and I stay in close contact, as you would imagine, with the current warden. By statute, the Department of Corrections is required to continue practice according to the current protocols that's in the regulations. Those staff are present at training. They continue training according to the statutory requirements. And I would say at present they are prepared to carry out executions if they're required to do that.
Thank you. That's a much more informative answer than I got a year ago. I appreciate that. The next question, can I have a follow-up, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
The next question, as you know, for the first time in history of the Department of Juvenile Justice, our juvenile detention facility is closed in Northern Kentucky. And I apologize, I got here a little bit late for your budget presentation, but it's my understanding that nothing was mentioned about that. And in talking with the secretary, in fact, I just chatted with him this morning, he said that one of the impediments was some remodeling, some reconfiguration that has to go on that facility. That is like front burner, very important to all of us. It's just a major issue in Northern Kentucky. What is the status as far as that facility, and are there any financial impediments in the budget to getting that done?
Let me start. All right. So initially, yes, there is a process in place presently. It's not closed. It's some retraining and reorganization going on.
Well, they're not accepting juvenile prisoners from law enforcement agencies at that facility currently.
Currently. You're correct, sir. Yes. And so as far as the budgetary process goes, I'll let Rebecca speak on that. But we are going to reopen the facility, and it is going to be utilized for
males and females.
No, it's a female facility. Yes, sir.
So in the previous session in Senate Bill 162, there was money allocated for a study of all of the juvenile detention centers within the state. And part of that is to examine how we can best accommodate a regional plan for detention. There's been, there's limitations within the facilities as far as size of the facility, and how much separation you can really create between the different groups of both either male and female, or high level offenders versus low level, to keep all of the youth as safe as possible. And so that study has retained architects who have expertise in juvenile facilities so that they can review each of them and determine what can we do from a facility standpoint to make them safer and be able to potentially accommodate a return to a more regionalized plan for detention. And so our goal with that is to have the majority of the study and cost estimates completed within the next few months, so that if there is something that they're suggesting that would be helpful so that we can better accommodate youth throughout the state, that we can request that through the budget process.
Follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that probably 90% of our juvenile detainees are males, not females, in Northern Kentucky. So having a female-only facility at that facility is just for us and for our law enforcement community, for our court system, is like having that facility closed, and it's totally unacceptable.
Thank you. In fact, I would like to follow up on that with a concern of my own. I'm also senator from Northern Kentucky and want to better reflect on the sense of urgency, if not emergency, and recognizing the diligence in the process. What can we look towards, or how can we influence quicker action? In fact, I've also heard multiple times in the last 24 hours of workforce concerns, and we have a tremendous workforce effort in Northern Kentucky, but also in the state, as we have committees dedicated to that. Can you please reflect a bit for us on how you're coordinating with all of the workforce efforts that are established in Kentucky?
Well, we are continuously working to ensure that Northern Kentucky and across the juvenile justice, Department of Juvenile Justice, that we're working hard to recruit and retain more employees to support the correction facility or the youth facilities in across the Commonwealth. In specific, when we talk about Northern Kentucky, the efforts that Secretary Harvey has put in place, and Rebecca has put out a number of RFPs and requests for our marketing and recruiting from our HR aspect. So, I mean, as far as priorities go, and as you said, you spoke with Secretary Harvey earlier, and I worked with him, and we talk daily about the pressing issue of the employment issue that we have in Northern Kentucky. So the effort has been targeted by Secretary Harvey and the staff of the Juvenile Justice, the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet. So it is a priority, and we work diligently to ensure that the citizens of the Northern Kentucky region are taken care of. So it's a priority. It's being pushed presently, and I don't know what else to say besides we're working to get it happen. I mean, to make it happen. I mean, we have taken the steps to ensure that retention is important, and training is important. So that's the reason why we're in the position that we've chosen to take right now, because we have prioritized ensuring that the Northern Kentucky facility is one of the top priorities, the top facilities in our juvenile justice system. So, I mean, I don't know how much more I can do besides say that it is a priority of Secretary Harvey.
Senator McDaniel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask just a few more things on this, Mr. Secretary. As Senator Schickel reflected, being able to house males up there is important. I mean, one of the things we heard in the task force last summer was the importance, particularly in Louisville, of those juveniles being kind of close to their families and support systems. Clearly, that's not a situation that we have with our mails in Northern Kentucky. I would like to know, and you can even send this in a letter down, in the next 4 weeks. We've got time, but time as it relates to the budgetary process. How's about that? Not as much operationally, but what are the impediments to being able to house mails in Northern Kentucky, and are there fiscal impediments? What would it take, even if it's an expansion in the overall system, to be able to accommodate that? Like I say, it's something you can reflect on. I know I was with the governor the morning after the assault. I think it was in Bowling Green or down in West Kentucky, and we had an extended conversation. And I told him, let us know what you need to be able to work on this. And the same remains. And now that we do have a little bit more time, a little more breathing space from some of those events, I would like to know that. And if we need to take a different fiscal look, then let us know so that we can work that direction. It's important for the families as well as for the law enforcement communities who are having to spend a pretty substantial amount of time either waiting on transport, making transport, whatever it is. The other thing that was a big item during session, I remember, have we gotten the training and the equipment to the staff to be able to at least have some defensive capabilities, pepper sprays and batons or other things? And could you speak to that, please?
Yes, sir, we have. And that is like a priority of coming out of the session for Secretary Harvey was to ensure that the defensive equipment was given to the employees of the juvenile justice system. So all the equipment has been ordered. I think the only part that has not been totally fulfilled is getting the scanners, correct? Mm-hmm. The scanners, but batons, the pepper spray, the training, all that has been completed. Yes, sir.
Good. So they're actually it's being utilized in the facilities.
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your presentations today, and it does appear we have some follow-up items, so we'll look forward to hearing from you on those, and perhaps if you would share that with the staff, then we can cascade it to the committee, as we have a few members not present today. Any further questions for our guests this morning? On that note, it looks like we're to item 4, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Second. Thank you. We are adjourned. I think. Did I do that right? No. Did I follow that right? Coach Flannery.
It's a quick turn.